This show's audio was via a Skype call.
Welcome to the hit show Beyond Proof Radio with Angie, redefining death and loss on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Are you struggling with loss? Are you willing to challenge everything you've been taught about life and death? Beyond Proof Radio is a space that explores beyond current self-limiting beliefs surrounding loss, offering radical healing which will come from the least likely of places. Join Angie on her journey, which includes science, medicine, and spirituality, proving that the body is merely a shell of our soul. It's possible to create an amazing life from the depths of pain. It's your life. It's your choice. Now, here's your host.
Welcome, my beautiful listeners, to another episode of Beyond Proof Radio with me, your host, Angie Corbett Kuiper. And this is the second part in a two-part series where I have my special guest, Stephen Hawley Martin, author of several books. The one we are discussing today is Afterlife, The Whole Truth, Life and Death books. This one is book 2, Heaven, Hell, and You. And Stephen Hawley is a professional writer and ghostwriter. He also works with writers who are wanting to get their books and their works published. He's the winner of a number of national awards for his work. He's the editor and publishers of the Oaklea Press. You can find Stephen Hawley Martin at his website, shmartin.com. It's S-H, S as in Stephen, H, Hawley, Martin, shmartin.com. He's a publisher of a new book that just came out on July 23rd called Awaken the Winner Within Lucky You. And I love that book, so I'm looking forward to talking to him this morning or this afternoon a little bit about that book as well. Now, book 1, 2 weeks ago, we discussed life after life, or the afterlife, the whole truth, powerful evidence you will never die. Today, we are delving into book 2, Life After Death, Heaven, Hell, and You. And with that, I welcome you, Stephen.
Well, thanks for having me, Angie. I'm looking forward to our talk.
Me too. And you all, if you joined us 2 weeks ago, it was the powerful evidence you will never die. And although Stephen, book 2 actually starts, and you probably don't even know this, but starts on page 211, but I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. And that is the plausible view of the afterlife that you kind of, it's the ending. We talked about reincarnation, but it's basically the exit wound before the entrance of the birthmark in your book too. But you give a very plausible view of the afterlife. Can you, for those of my listeners who fear death and fear what may or may not happen to them, can you discuss a little bit what do you believe is happens to us?
Let me say this, Angie. There have been literally thousands of reports from near-death survivors, that people who've been clinically dead and then revived, resuscitated, and come back to tell us what they experienced, and what they experienced has been shown to be very consistent. Almost all of them have a good experience. In fact, many would rather not have come back. They were having such a good time and enjoying where they went so much. Essentially, going through that tunnel toward the light and coming out into a place where they're usually greeted by loved ones who've gone before. They might also be greeted by what they see as some divine being of some kind. Could be Jesus, for example. Probably Muslims might see Muhammad. I don't know. I haven't seen any of their near-death experiences. But and it's just they feel as though they're being engulfed in this feeling of just tremendous love and toward them. It's they have a feeling of clarity where they can see and know things that maybe they didn't when they're alive. Kind of suddenly it all is clear to them what life's about and what our purpose here is on Earth, and all of that. So it's a wonderful experience, apparently. And I go on in this book to talk about how heaven is really created by our minds. Heaven is a mental realm, a place where we can create our own reality there somehow. And, there's a lot to it. There may be different levels of heaven. Certainly, you're going to be in a place where you feel comfortable and good, and the people around you are likely to be those who you've been with through probably many incarnations. Loved ones that maybe in one life was your husband, and another life was the son, and things like that. They're people entities, souls that that you're part of a soul group that probably has been incarnating for a long, long time, and that's that's what I think.
And Stephen, why do you believe, and just kind of curious, because before, and you had mentioned a couple of times in your books as well, it usually takes profound loss for people like me to come to this realization.
Well, we live in a strange time in history. I think the worldview that science has still today, which I think is going to change. I think it's in the process of changing, yes. But it's the the scientific materialism that came about really in the 19th century. It started in the 17th and 18th centuries with the Age of Reason, where many of the thinkers of the day became deists, where they thought that that the universe, the world, was created by a God who was kind of like a clockmaker who wound it up and let it go and is no longer involved in it. And then later on in the 19th century, with the publication of Origin of Species by Charles Darwin in 1859, the whole idea of God got dropped. We don't need God because, evolution happens through, according to Darwin, through survival of the fittest and through natural selection, which I do think is one of the mechanisms in evolution, but I don't think it's the only one. So what's happened is we've been brought up in schools and taken science classes that tell us that material substance is all that's in the universe, and that's all it is, that there's nothing more. But the fact of the matter is that's wrong. Research by the University of Virginia School of Medicine, for example, and this is in the first book we talked about a couple weeks ago, that research shows that the brain does not create our consciousness. Our brain actually is a receiver of consciousness, like a cell phone or a radio or your computer, if you're listening to this on a computer. Our program originates somewhere else, but if you didn't know better, you'd think it was inside your phone, your tablet, or your computer. Well, that's the same way with the brain. Your consciousness originates somewhere else, and your brain receives that consciousness and integrates it with your body. And when you die, your brain and your body release your consciousness back into the mental realm, heaven, if you want to call it, that we came from in the first place. And so, like you say, I think in your introduction to your show, the body really is a shell for your soul. It's a raincoat that you wear, and eventually you're going to drop it, then you're going to go on, you're going to go back to where you came from, and then probably in another few years or whatever, maybe so, maybe not, you'll come back again. And so that's kind of the way it works. So we're conditioned by our schooling to think that there couldn't possibly be a heaven, where our schooling is incorrect. In fact, I've just published yesterday a new book called How Science Reveals God. And I go into a lot of information, both about how the Earth had a beginning, the Big Bang. I don't think anybody questions that. What was before the Big Bang? Who caused the Big Bang? And how life itself, DNA, is the result of a very complicated molecule that is so complicated it's like computer code. And if you have computer code, I mean, the strands of DNA in a cell are 6 feet 6 inches long, 2 meters long, and it's code. Now, who could string code that far and that long in order to create life? There had to be a programmer to do it. So who was the programmer? Well, programmer was God. So on and on. I could go on, probably for the rest of our time together today talking about this.
No, that's interesting. Congratulations on your new book, How Science Reveals God. I get in questions or in conversations a lot where people will say to me, well, I have faith. I don't have to believe that, so you don't just have faith. Well, it's interesting because prior to these deaths, I did have faith. But it's so wonderful knowing that faith can be proven.
Yeah. The thing of it is, Angie, I might have mentioned this last time. I grew up in a family of scientific materialists. I mean, they were secular humanists, I guess you would call them. Believed all that science from the 19th century. My mother was born in 1906. I mean, so she wasn't that far away from the 19th century. And so I believed that, just like a lot of people still do today, until I was in my mid-20s. I think I was 27 when I had an out-of-body experience. And I thought, well, hey, how can this happen? How can I be looking at my body lying on that bed, and if my brain creates my consciousness? So that's when I started into this, and that was like almost 50 years ago.
Right. And I love what you say, going back to how God creates humans. And I know some of you, my listeners, God is now like a 4-letter word. And Stephen, I think you say in your book several times that it's not a he or a she or an it. It just is.
Well, that's right. I mean, God is anthropomorphic. He's not, he or she is not a one sex or the other. God is I really prefer the term, and I use it in some of my books, infinite mind. God is infinite mind. It's super duper mind. Yeah. And we are all part of God. The universe is all part of God. God is just like the pantheists believed back, a couple thousand years ago. God is in everything. God is the ground of being. Consciousness is the ground of being. And their spirit.
And I like what you say on page 223 of your book, How God Created Humans. And this, I really, for lack of a better saying, got a kick out of it. And that is, we humans and everything else in the universe evolved out of the organizing consciousness that is God, following the Big Bang. He created RNA, followed by DNA, and then one-celled animals, which eventually led to an almost infinite number of variations of living things. And I love that because it's almost like you basically evolved God.
Well,
or evolved consciousness.
Yeah, there are people who think, and this is, I once interviewed the CEO of the Association for Research and Enlightenment, which is the organization that was created by Edgar Cayce back in the 1930s. And I don't know if you're aware of Edgar Cayce, but he was called the sleeping prophet back in the last century, and gave something like 14,000 readings that have all were transcribed by a stenographer. Anyway, he tells me that he believes that God is evolving as, along with us, that the universe is evolving and God is evolving with it. And that we are helping that evolution through our lives here on Earth by what we experience.
And with that, my beautiful listeners, we are heading into break. When we come back, the beautiful Stephen Hawley Martin, his books, and continuing our conversation on evolution of God, man, earth, consciousness when we come back.
If you have a sense that you are meant for more, join Heather Allison every third Tuesday at noon Pacific as she explores an ancient, forgotten energy within us and helps us access our original archetypal blueprint. The Golden Path will help you remember the key to unlocking your life, love, success, and magic you were meant for. A key to unlocking your golden path. Visit heather-allison.com.
Learn and explore fascinating and practical uses of essential oils, how to use them, and how they can enhance your everyday life. The Oil Lounge was founded by 3 remarkable women with fascinating stories about how essential oils changed their lives. Tina and Laura from The Karmic Path have joined forces to educate the masses in the benefits of Young Living essential oils. For more information, visit theoillounge.com.
Are you ready to finally feel empowered and knowledgeable in your political stance? Let Marcia Padilla-Goad educate you on exactly how important grassroots advocacy is in a relatable way to all parties and all perspectives. Tune in to Grassroots Advocacy Radio with Marcia every first Tuesday of the month at 12 p.m. Pacific and 3 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more, visit DynamicsInPublicAffairs.com.
Choose the New Earth on the Cornelia Stephanie Show. Tune in each week on Transformation Talk Radio as Cornelia takes listeners on an odyssey of higher consciousness to inspire, educate, and empower. Cornelia guides people on the path of self-healing, peace, and liberation. The Cornelia Stephanie Show is your catalyst for anchoring heaven on earth on a global scale. For more information, go to CorneliaStephanie.com.
People often ask, what does it mean to thrive? On Thrive by Jen Radio, it means body confidence, mind fulfillment, and soul synchronicity. Create synchronicity with God and learn as Jen shares action steps and real stories that will inspire you to be unstoppable in fulfilling your purpose. Tune in live each Monday at 8 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com and visit JenniferZellup.com to thrive with Jen.
Welcome back to the program. I am with Stephen Hawley Martin, author of several books. In fact, he just shared with us his newest book, How Science Reveals God. We are talking today, Heaven, Hell, and You. Stephen, welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
I have a question for you. Okay, so living in the West, why do you think that we as a society, if you will, are so not so much afraid of death, but don't accept death, or that consciousness lives on and on and on? To me, this has been the most peaceful and calm way to move through the loss of my loved ones, is realizing I feel like I had it all wrong.
Well, you did have it all wrong, and your loved ones are still exist, and you will be reunited with them eventually when your time comes. I think it's our Western culture. Doctors, they're in the business of preventing death. And they just, it's something that's ingrained in the way we, as you said, Westerners think. In the East, there are more people in the world that believe in reincarnation and all of that than there aren't. Something like a couple of billion Hindus and Buddhists and so forth. And in the East, it's taken for granted that reincarnation exists, that our consciousness continues and takes different form from one lifetime to the next. It's just part of their culture as much as a religion. Whereas back in, I think it was in 553 AD, 550 years after the birth of Christ, that at the Second Council of Constantine, the bishops who got together decided to remove reincarnation from Christian doctrine. Apparently, it was a pretty close vote, and there were those who were for it and those who were against it, taking it out. But it got taken out, and so therefore it hasn't been part of Christian canon, Christian doctrine for 1,500 years. And so anybody who's raised in the Christian church is immediately going to reject reincarnation. Whereas the Bible, when Edgar Cayce started giving life readings and it came out that people had different issues and problems because of something that happened in a previous life, he didn't believe that could be possible because he was a devout Christian. And so what he did is he read the Bible from cover to cover and looked for reincarnation. And though the word reincarnation is nowhere in the Bible, there are plenty of passages that indicate that reincarnation is real and that Christians of the early church believed in it. For example, Jesus, in one passage, and I can't remember the verse, but I'm sure anybody who's really knowledgeable about the Bible will be able to tell you that at one point, Jesus tells his followers that John the Baptist is Elijah, that the prophets said would come. And of course, the prophets lived 400 years before Jesus. So John the Baptist was the reincarnation of Elijah, which had been predicted 400 years before. There are other passages that I could quote if you're interested, but I think that's why we reject it. We think that, this is the end. It's because what we were taught in school and because the Christian church doesn't believe in reincarnation. I think all of that's going to change, though. And I
believe that, too. I have to tell you, it feels it. You can almost feel it with especially authors like yourself, programs like this. You had a radio program as well years ago. And I believe you're right. There is such a healing when we open our minds. And I go back to Constantine a little bit. Or a lot of it. I believe he ruled the church from a place of fear.
Yeah.
And
that was what it was about. If people thought that they're going to get another chance because they're going to reincarnate, another chance to make it to heaven, then they didn't have to obey the rules. I agree with that. But then you go into your book, which I absolutely love. And this also goes prior to the second part of your book. But I love what you say about the views and attitudes create our experiences. Because for my listeners, for you all sitting out there listening to this, you've heard of Abraham Hicks, and you've heard of the law of attraction, and what you put out there, you will get back. Stephen does a very good job and very eloquently puts, if someone assumes a loving mother God, instead, this will be that person's experience. If one believes in an unforgiving, wrathful, and capricious God, this will be the God that person has to deal with. If a person does not believe in God at all, but thinks everything happens arbitrarily and by chance, this will be that person's experience. If a person believes that God will punish him for his transgressions, that person will be punished. Stephen, talk about that a little. I love that. It's like the law of attraction in the spirit realm or reincarnation. We're creating our death today. Yeah, we are. it's true that our minds create our reality. You know, we have a conscious mind, we have an unconscious mind as well, and in that unconscious mind are things that are programmed into you from birth. I believe the subconscious mind is another layer that also includes what happened to you in past lives. But we've become programmed to believe certain things. And so we go through life expecting certain things to happen, and they do. What we believe is true for us. And so, you know, if we think we're poor, we won't notice all the opportunities there are to make money and get rich. We'll only see the things that reinforce what we already believe, and that is that we're poor. If we think we are wealthy or should be wealthy and that it's our birthright, we're going to have a whole different outlook on things and start seeing opportunities that we eventually will take and follow and turn us into wealthy people. The same is true with, everything. You know, when it's like one of the examples I use is that playing tennis. I used to be a tennis player. My wife still plays a lot. And think about this. If you are playing tennis with somebody and they're having a really great day and they're just, you know, tearing up the court and you're losing, when you pass them at the net, if you say, "Man, Charlie, you are doing great today. Whatever you do in this next point, don't double fault."
What a great strategy.
What do you think he's going to do in the next play? He's going to double fault because you planted that in his head. Our subconscious mind, our unconscious mind does not hear the word no. It just hears double fault, and that like becomes a command for it to follow through.
That's funny. And you guys, when we come back, we're at 1 minute, Stephen, before break, so I'm going to cut you off here. But what a great analogy. And this is just such a great segue into Stephen's, I was going to say his most current book, but now I can't say that as of a week ago, Awaken the Winner Within, Lucky You, where he talks about the purpose. His whole book, the whole premise rides on the purpose of this life and every life you have ever lived or will live in the future is to become all that you can be. It is to self-actualize. And with that, Stephen, when we come back, we can go more into this and welcome you guys, or thank you guys for joining us today. This is a fun program. When we come back, Heaven, Hell, and You, Exposed.
Do you want the knowledge and wisdom to understand where spirituality, science, and psychology intersect? Then join the Karmic Path Radio Show with Tina and Laura on TransformationTalkRadio.com Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific. Follow this charmingly, disarmingly dynamic duo as they explore how psychic ability, spirituality, and karmic law tie together. For more information on Tina, Laura, and their groundbreaking work, visit thekarmicpath.com.
Do you know how to achieve wellness in all areas of your life? Hi, I'm Mary Jane Mack. Signs of wellness are a capacity to love and ability to nurture, a sense of purpose, a good sense of humor and plenty of fun in your life, a concern for others and a respect for the environment, a conscious commitment to personal excellence, a sense of balance and integrated lifestyle, and capacity to cope with whatever life presents. Well, people enjoy their lives and want them to last as long as possible. That's why the wellness mindset usually accompanies other constructive, healthy lifestyle habits. By adopting a wellness mindset and behaviors like eating well, taking the right nutrition for the body, exercising, and saying affirmations are just a few things to structure a healthy system of values and beliefs. I will be your wellness coach to help you achieve a wellness lifestyle. Call us at 888-777-4232. That's 888-777-4232. And visit us at MaryJaneMack.com.
What is a brilliant culture, and how do we create them? Why are they important? Claudette Rowley has created a breakthrough 5-step process to help you align your culture with your business strategy for exceptional results. Looking for a culture that drives organizational excellence? Listen to Cultural Brilliance Radio, the second and fourth Friday of each month at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio. To learn more or work with Claudette, visit culturalbrilliance.com.
On the cutting edge of the new mainstream, Christine Upchurch is passionate about bringing together science, psychology, and spirituality in a way that can be applied to our everyday lives for true transformation. The Christine Upchurch Show, stellar conversations to illuminate your journey, engages some of the most outstanding visionaries on the planet in lively dialogue to inspire you to become that bright light you're meant to be. Join Christine every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time on KKNW, AM 1150, and Transformation Talk Radio.
Do you know how powerful your thoughts and beliefs are in determining your experience of your life? Is it really true that simply by changing some of the words you use in your day-to-day language, that you can change your life? I'm Megan Edge. Join me on Playing on the Edge, Radical Change with Ease, with my co-host Dr. Pat on Transformation Talk Radio. I look forward to seeing you there.
To find out more about Megan Edge, visit her website at meganedge.ca.
Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Proof. I am your host, Angie Corbett Kuiper. We are now in section 3 of a 4-section radio program with the beautiful Stephen Hawley Martin, author of several books. But the one we're talking about today is Afterlife, the Whole Truth. We are in book 2. 2 weeks ago was book 1. We're talking about heaven, hell, and you. Welcome back, Stephen.
Oh, thanks, Angie. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, me too. I'm having so much fun. And I do say when people ask me my belief system, I believe God is in the question. Keep asking, and the answers continue to unfold in front of my eyes.
Ask and it shall be given. Seek and ye shall find.
There you go. Coming from a raised by secular humanist, look how he's turned. Hey, Stephen, tell my listeners a little about, I was so impressed that you had said that you had written a new book in a week's amount of time, How Science Reveals God. And in July, you just published Awaken the Winner Within, Lucky You. You also help aspiring publishers or not publishers, authors, get their books out there. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we move on?
Sure. I'm the publisher of the Oakley Press. It's OAKLEA Press. We have about 50-some books in print now, and you can get in touch with me through my website, www.shmartin.com. Send me an email, and I'll respond. But yeah, I'm looking for books to publish. I also ghostwrite books for people, particularly people who are like consultants or business executives, and they're experts in their field, but they don't have time or maybe the inclination to write a book, but they have a good idea, and having a book published in their name as author helps position them as an authority in their field. I write those kinds of books. Business books, I've written half a dozen or more business books. Many of them were ghostwritten. So anyway, yeah, I have this publishing company. I design the covers. I edit them. If a book is ready to go, I'll publish it. If it's something that I think that I like and I think people out there will like, I'll publish it. It won't cost a thing.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And I love everything that you're doing, Stephen. Your books are amazing. And today we're talking about heaven, hell, and you. And one of the, I don't know if I want to say things, Stephen, but when we talk about reincarnation,
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm trying to figure out ways to say this, but to me, reincarnation alleviates, or even we discussed a couple weeks ago, birthmarks, the exit, how we exited our previous life is how we're going to come into this life. And I may have said this before, maybe not, but then that alleviates the need to blame a judgmental God.
I don't believe that God is judgmental at all. I think that God is what God is all about is evolution, is the growth of each of us, the growth of himself, the growth of the universe, the evolution of the universe. And that's one of the reasons life is difficult. That's the Buddha said life is suffering, and he's right. Scott Peck wrote a book about 40 years ago called The Road Less Traveled, and the first 3 words of that book are life is difficult. And it is difficult, and there's a reason it's difficult, because if you have it really easy in life, if people hand you things on a silver platter, if people are waiting on you constantly, as they must the Queen of England, you don't grow. You don't grow from that. What you grow from are facing difficulties, dealing with them, all the hurt and the pain, the sick, the illnesses. When you go through those things, and at my age, I can look back at life and see that, there are things that went through, and if I'd known about them before they happened, I'd have really been upset. But having gone through them, I'm a better person. I've grown as a result. My soul has grown. I've matured. And so that's what life on earth is about. I also in my books call it a hero's journey. A hero's journey is when the hero has the call to adventure. He or she is in his or her ordinary world, and something causes them to have to go out of that ordinary world into an unknown place where things are different. The Wizard of Oz with Dorothy is the perfect example of a hero's journey, where she's in Kansas and she goes to the land of Oz, and she makes friends there, but she has enemies, and the witch tries to get her and all that. But through that process, she learns something. Of course, what she learns is there's no place like home, because she wanted to run away from home at the start of the film. So through our hero's journey that we take, life is a hero's journey. Our original home, our home is heaven. We come here to earth. And then throughout our lives here on earth, we take hero's journeys. And each one is a learning process where we become more and more evolved, especially if we address it that way. If we just think, oh, this is awful, I can't stand this, and we crawl in a hole somewhere and don't deal with it, then we're not learning anything either. I think most of us are resilient enough to face what comes and deal with it, and that makes us a better person.
Beautifully said. And I want to ask you about hell, because I think what happens are we get in these organizations, and if you don't believe this, you are going to hell. If you believe in reincarnation, if you believe in any other religion or any other doctrinization, you are going to hell. How do you think, Stephen, we can help those realize that there is no hell? Hell is what we're creating in our minds. I see so many sad, unhappy people making sure they stay on that yellow brick road when it's what happens on the outside of the yellow brick road and off the yellow brick road that we find our answers, and that we never really needed to be on a yellow brick road searching for something that is already deep within us.
Yeah. Well, hell, as you said, and as I say in my books, we create our own reality. And if we believe that we're going to hell, we'll probably have some kind of a hellish experience when we die. But it doesn't have to be that way. I buy into what Emanuel Swedenborg said. He lived back in the 18th century, and he apparently was able to go back and forth between physical reality and the mental realm. And he wrote, just a tremendous amount on the subject. And his view of heaven was that it was a 7-layered reality, where at the very top layer, you were in communion with God and others like you, were all love and so forth, all the way down to the bottom layer where people like Jeffrey Dahmer or Charles Manson or somebody like that went, really bad guys. But even their reality in that, what you might say was a hell-like place, was not hell for them because it's where they felt comfortable. They felt they were around people like them who, and, who was it who said, go to heaven for the climate and hell for the company?
Yes, I don't know who said it, but you're absolutely, that's funny.
Yeah. But, so even the bad guys go to a place where they feel comfortable and they're not burning, I think Swedenborg was right.
Yeah. And you can find this on page 202 of his book. He does go into Emanuel Swedenborg was a philosopher and scientist as well as a theologian, which makes him very well-rounded, Stephen.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. I'm going to interrupt you real quick, and that is when you talk about the 7 levels of spiritual world and the spiritual world existence. When I was reading that, I automatically went to the 7 chakras because in a way, when you look at the root chakra being grounded in safety and basically from a place of lack, all the way up to Epnes, which is or the ineffable, which is bliss, serenity, it is enlightenment. So it almost as if you are going, and I don't know, are you familiar with David Hawkins at all?
Yeah, and I know about the chakras, and as they say, as above, so below. It's there definitely is a correlation there.
And what David Hawkins wrote in the book Power versus Force, and we're coming up on 1 minute, so I'm just going to quickly go over this, but the map of consciousness, and he looked at us being vibrational entities, and from 0 all the way up to 1,000. And God, well, it would be Christ, it would be Mother Teresa, would be in the 1,000 range, where you had your Jeffrey Dahmers and those that take their lives, miserable, evil, hopeless, tragic, frightened, disappointed, antagonistic, demanding, feasible, satisfactory, hopeful, harmonious, meaningful, benign, complete, perfect, and is. And Stephen, you say a lot of that in your book, and it's almost as if it's the chakras, it's the map of consciousness. It all comes together.
Yes, it does.
And with that, we are going to be back, you guys, with the beautiful Stephen Hawley Martin. We will finish our last segment and continuing our discussion on heaven, hell, and you when we come back.
Has your buzz for life buzzed off? Feeling ignored, invisible, and wondering if this is really all there is? The years go by faster as we gain momentum. You're halfway there. Are you gathering speed or puttering out? Hit your stride for the liberating half of life. Comfortable in your skin? You can do better than that. Tune in to Discovering You Again Radio every 4th Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific as host Susan Axelrod encourages listeners to decide what they want, get inspired to action, and face challenges head on. Host Susan Axelrod pulls no punches, encouraging you to grab the brass ring and soar. For more information about Susan, go to www.whatwillyourlegacybe.com.
Are you ready to create a life you'll really love? Then you'll want to tune in to the hit show Life Design Radio, From Adversity to Awesome with Susan DiLorenzo, live each month on TransformationTalkRadio.com. No matter where you are in your adversity story, Life Design Radio has got you covered. Get ready to feel inspired, enlightened, and motivated. For more information about working with Susan, visit SusanDiLorenzo.com.
Tune in to Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly Neff. This hit show will illuminate your senses and empower you beyond your daily stressors and hardships. Renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly will captivate you with far-reaching topics and amazing guests as you wake to the greatest version of yourself. Learn to tap into your intuitions, think critically about our world, heal emotional and psychological wounds, and follow your passions to live your dreams. The Lucid Planet. Welcome home. Visit lucidplanetradio.com for more information.
Are you feeling stuck in unhealthy habits, toxic relationships, or low self-esteem? Do you crave a healthy relationship filled with inspiration? You might just be on the verge of attracting your soulmate. Tune in each month to The Laura Richer Show, where dating coach Laura Richer and co-host matchmaker Peggy Bennett share tools for using your dating breakdown for a relationship breakthrough. For more information, visit richerhealinghypnosis.com.
If you're dealing with fear and anxiety, you've probably noticed that the more you fight these emotions, the stronger they seem to get. Dr. Friedemann Schaub, the author of The Fear and Anxiety Solution, explains that instead of suppressing, we need to identify and resolve the deeper, subconscious root causes of fear and anxiety. His personal breakthrough program has helped thousands worldwide to overcome their emotional challenges. To learn more, visit thefearandanxietysolution.com and schedule your free consultation with Dr. Schaub now.
Welcome back to the last final segment of Beyond Proof with me, your host, Angie Corbett Kuiper, and my beautiful guest, Stephen Hawley Martin. I am so honored to have Stephen on my program. He encompasses everything that I believe, which, Stephen, I'm so grateful that you do. You take the look at a humanistic level, a reincarnated level, a self-awareness, conscious level, and you kind of have been able to attack it from all these different angles.
Yeah, well, thank you.
And so, Stephen, on page 302 of your book, under the subtitle, How We Can Find the Way, talk to my listeners, those that fear that they're going to hell or think that they're going to heaven. What do you believe is the ultimate goal while here on earth?
Well, I think the ultimate goal is to evolve your soul, yourself, to the maximum extent possible. It's self-actualization, as I say somewhere else. And I think the way you do that, I think that we each have something special about us that only each one of us has. It's what I guess people in the spiritual area say is dharma. It's the thing that you have that you can offer to others. And I think if you can figure out what your dharma is and use it in service to others, then you're fulfilling your purpose on this earth. And for me, example, my dharma was told to me by a psychic at the School of Metaphysics that's out in Missouri. They have psychic readings, very much like Edgar Cayce did, where they go into a trance and they're given questions and they answer them. And my dharma came back as omniperception. I'm able to see the whole when only a small part is visible. I mean, that's kind of the way they designed it. It's kind of like being a little bit psychic. You can see a little bit, and then suddenly your mind puts it all together into, how it all fits together and how it becomes a whole. And I'm using that in the books that I write. Now, other people might have a different dharma. It might be making people feel comfortable and wanted. So they might be better and in some sort of a hospitality kind of occupation where they use that dharma in service to others. I mean, there are all kinds of dharmas, but I think each one of us was created with a particular talent, a particular dharma, and that through many lifetimes we have used and developed that. And so the way I think you find it is, first of all, give yourself time. It's not something you can do while you're driving to work or riding on the bus to work. Go to a library, go to someplace quiet, sit down, give yourself some time, hours, but think, what is it that I have done that puts me so in the zone that when I'm finished doing it, I may have spent hours, but it seems like only minutes. Yeah. That is pointing towards your dharma. And then the next thing to figure out is, how can I use that in service to others, whether it's in an occupation, whether it's in a hobby, whether it's in volunteerism or whatever it might be. Then you're using your talent, your dharma, to help others. You are on the path. And that's really what I recommend, to spend that time, figure that out, and then put together a plan on how to use it.
I love that. And I want to interject my 2 cents here as well. And that is, when I found Stephen doing the earthly work, being in biotech and biopharmaceuticals and talking to doctors and sales, and it never felt good. It was okay, but it was a means to an end. It was a paycheck. When I found, and I did this, and Edgar Cayce would be proud if he was still with us. Well, he is still with us, but, on this physical plane, is when I meditated one night, and it was through the Jason Stevenson, his YouTube. He offers several YouTube meditations where you put your intention out there. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this, Stephen? I was like, what do I do with these 2 suicides? And it was right then I sat up in bed. What is it? The bewitching hour, 3:30 in the morning, whatever it was. It was boldness in death. And although it sounds morbid for some, and hopefully after programs like this, it won't be morbid and it would be more enlightening and just the other part of life, the next part of our lives. But Stephen, I have to tell you, every day, it's not work. It's just like you had said. It is moving in this direction, and I'm being shown every day. And I can tell when it's a struggle, it isn't of the divine, or it isn't what some would call God, and it isn't what my dharma, what you would call dharma is. I know with pinpoint accuracy when I am on the path that serves not only my highest and best, but others as well.
Well, that's right. You've figured it out. And, so many people will take the job that pays the most, and, and then after a while they're unhappy. They buy the big house in the suburbs, and that's great for a little while, and then that gets old. You really got to be doing what you were born to do. And what you're born to do is use your dharma in service to others and your talents, your special talents that you've got. So that's my recommendations. Work for me. When I'm writing book, I told you, I wrote this last one in a short period of time.
1 week, listeners, 1 week. I couldn't even.
When I'm writing, especially writing something that I believe in and feel good about, I'm in the zone, and I can spend 8 hours, except for maybe getting up to go to the bathroom or have lunch, 8 hours, and it seems like minutes.
Wow. I love that. And Stephen, we only have 2 minutes. My beautiful listeners, thank you for allowing Stephen and myself into your cars, on your computers, on the radio, however you chose to listen to us today. Stephen, thank you for the time and your energy. Thank you for sharing heaven, hell, and you, and how there is no physical heaven or hell.
Yeah, it's mental. And if anybody wants to know more about my books, they can come to my website, shmartin.com. If you want to get in touch with me, just use the contact form and I'll respond.
Excellent. And Stephen, thank you so much. My beautiful listeners, thank you for the time that you shared with Stephen and myself. Stephen, I would love to have you come back and we can talk about your next book. I would be honored.
Okay, I'll send you a copy.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all. And Stephen, thank you.
All right.
Until next time, my beautiful listeners.
Thank you for listening to Beyond Proof Radio with Angie, redefining death and loss. Tune in every first and third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com as Angie shares through choice, present moment awareness, and a willingness to keep an open mind about everything that anything is possible. Tune in every first and third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com as Angie shares through choice, present moment awareness, and a willingness to keep an open mind about everything that anything is possible, even in death. For more information or to listen to past shows, visit BeyondProof.com. That's BeyondProof.com. See you next time.